So as all of you had an interesting childhood, as did I. At the time I thought it was a normal childhood.
Hold on, where's my counter of? Got it? All right. All right, I want to pass it down because I want everybody to get a different opportunity to.
How many ounces did I get? I just love it.
I don't know.
I really make most.
And here's the thing.
Keep it up high to make sure I hear the sound.
Yep. Any sort of distraction of that would count. Any acknowledgement of that would count.
Hey.
So as all of you have had interesting childhoods, as did I. At the time I thought it was a normal childhood because that's all I had to experience. But at the age of 8, I became an employee of my family business. My grandfather specifically, started opening drugstores. Retail drugstores, what you would know as CVS or Walgreens, those types of structures. And so at the age of 8, there I was working in the drugstores, thinking that's just what you did as a kid, is you just work in the family business. And my whole childhood was opening another store, and then another store, and then another store, constantly opening up new stores. My grandfather teaching me how to run a business from the age of 8. By the time I was 10 years old, I could read financial statements, profit and loss, balance sheet, cash flow statements. I understood what they were. My grandfather made sure that I understood what they were and how he was growing the business. By the time I was 12, I was an assistant manager at one of the stores, part-time. And so that's just what I knew growing up. Fast forward, I was 21 years old, living in Vancouver at the time. As you guys had already heard, I had challenges with my father, and so I left the family business on purpose, moved to Vancouver to get away from my father. But in that same process, I left my grandfather, who was probably the greatest influence in my life, still to this day. And at the age of 21, I get the phone call that my grandfather passed away. So I'm Jewish, and so in a Jewish funeral, it's 48 hours. There's no embalming, there's no delay. It happens, you got 48 hours. So I'm booking a plane ticket. I'm coming back to my hometown, which, by the way, I was raised in a small city in Canada. It's called Regina. That's why Renee wanted me to say that word. So Regina, Saskatchewan. That's where I'm born and raised. So I am flying from Vancouver. I'm flying from Vancouver back to Regina.
So easily amused.
All I can think is Austin Powers right now.
Yeah.
He's talking about his grandparents.
That's right. So plane lands. My brother picks me up at the airport. I go to where all my family is grieving, and I have to change into a suit real quick. And the limos are coming by it's
I'm going to be like the biggest asshole in the world. So you've told the story 1,000 times, and this is a fucking cop out of a story to tell.
I'm getting there, buddy.
Do you have an ending that's different?
Yes.
I want to challenge you.
I'm accepting the challenge.
And this story you tell without any. I mean, this was like.
I promise you, I'm getting there. I give you my word.
Okay.
So my brother picks me up at the airport. I get to the house. I'm changing into a suit real quick, and as I'm getting dressed, the limos show up to pick up the family to take us to the synagogue where the services are. And so it's just a whirlwind for me. We get into the limo, we get to the synagogue, and as we're pulling up to the synagogue, there's thousands of people standing outside the synagogue. It's bedlam. And all that's occurring to me in the moment is, why somebody should open the door and let them in. Like, what's happening here? Who's running this show? And I'm still not grieving to this point, right? Because it's everything's just happening so fast. And so the crowd parts. You know, the family gets out of the limousines. We walk to the door of the synagogue, and I remember stepping into the synagogue, and there's a straight shot through to see where the services are, and it is packed. It is shoulder to shoulder. there's 1,000 people inside. And I stopped. I remember being cold, like I just stopped going, oh my God. And I turned around and there's thousands more outside. And for the first time in my life, I realized I wasn't the only one that he impacted. I didn't know. I had no idea. And so the city police, for the first time in the city's history, were called for a funeral. They had to block off all the streets to get to the cemetery because the car procession, they'd never seen anything like it for my grandfather. And it occurred to me that what my grandfather was trying to teach me, so I am 21 years old and I'm just now understanding, what my grandfather was trying to teach me was how to have impact. How do you create value? Why was he opening a new drugstore every 6 months, right? Because the value that was being created in the community, if you think of in California In-N-Out Burger, right? There's a cultural thing about In-N-Out Burger in California. That was the opinion, the public opinion of our family's drugstores where I grew up. And so it wasn't just the employees, it was the families, it was customers, it was everybody. It's like the whole city showed up. And so I looked at it and I said, if I had a teacher that taught me how to do that, how do I pay respect to that? How do I be respectful of the lesson? And so for me, it's taking what he taught me and 10xing it. How do I 10x that lesson? How do I have 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times the impact? Because somebody already taught me how. And so my activities now are driven based on the legacy of being respectful to my grandpa. And so when I talk about creating value in the marketplace, it's not based on I give great service and I'm a really great guy and it's all about relationships, and it's not about rhetoric. It's about radical change. It's about completely separating yourself from in the marketplace where your competition is so completely irrelevant that you're literally changing lives. You're changing the lives of your vendors, you're changing the lives of your employees, you're changing the lives of your customers because your value proposition is so immense, so light years ahead of anybody else. And that I have spent every minute of every day trying to learn the best ways to do that in whatever is in front of me, and using all of my skills and abilities and all of my access to resources. And even little things like this morning, I didn't want to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning if I don't have to be here until 8:15. But what I knew was that if I get up that early, I get 20 minutes in a car alone with him, and I get undivided attention, undivided, absolute focused, concentrated conversation about me and my needs for 20 minutes straight. I'm getting up. It doesn't matter, right? And it's not about trying to get more money. That's not it. At the end of the day, there's going to be a day when I pass away, whenever that day is, and I want someone to look around and say, there's a lot of fucking people here at this funeral. What the hell did this guy do? And that's how I'm going to judge my life, is the impact that I'm able to have based on my grandmother's teaching. Feedback.
I'm going to reserve mine for a second.
Go ahead.
While I go, you finish the story with saying how you started the story. So your grandfather and what he did in the church and the people kind of put it all together. Brilliant.
I really like the fact that you're comfortable with your emotions and you're using them as a sense of stability and grounding the purpose for everything going forward. I mean, I don't know many people that are comfortable telling that story, and you told it with an emotion and a tear and your eyes getting tight and red. But at the same time, it was peaceful to listen to you talk about the impact your grandfather made, and now you're using that as the legacy going forward. I love that story, knowing that you're going back to that sense of purpose from your grandfather, teaching an 8 and a 10-year-old, and that's what you want the world to judge, is that same 8 and 10-year-old, is he doing enough like his grandfather did? Very good.
Short period of time I've known you to be more animated. Our first interaction, you like, oh, you're right here, right? I mean, you stood there. So, I mean, I created the message was succinct. It was deep. I love your animation. It makes me feel like I'm connected. You're alive.
You made, not you made me. I become animated when I see potential for legacy. In the conversation you and I had, all I saw was legacy. Like 10x, 100x, 1000x. Like it was like your ability to create legacy is on a completely different level. And so, yeah, I get animated real quick when I see it, because it fired that off in me, right? You fired off legacy in me. I was like, my purpose. I must talk about this now.
I see the same in you, and that's why I share the feedback.
Yeah.
Because based on what you've been able to do, the story that you told, I wanted to see the same thing, because it is, from what I know, and even taking down notes of the 5 different reasons why you become successful, it's clear that legacy is what drives you.
It is now.
Yeah.
Up until June, it was fuck you.
Yeah.
To my dad. Right? Well, fuck you to my dad. It was driving the activity.
Yeah.
Now I can solely focus on the legacy piece.
Right.
Next one.
Yeah, cool.
This is a nitpicky body language thing. And you might be able to see it when you watch it back, but I noticed when you were comfortable, your home base would be more like this. And then when you felt uncomfortable, you were at the position you're at now.
Mm-hmm.
And I could feel
This
that.
is me praying.
Yeah.
Please don't pass out. Please don't pass out.
I was asking you some of those questions beforehand because, like Renee was saying, and he'll probably do this to me too, or I don't know what you have in store for me, but it's that you are clearly at a much higher level. So what are those things that we can do to get you to the even next one? So that's why I was
That's
asking
great.
you, because some of you were here, but last night you mentioned that he had a phobia of public speaking. So I go, tell me about that, because the way that you're telling stories last night, I mean, let's be honest, I mean, he's incredible. I've been picking up things from you that I want to be able to use when I tell stories. And so using what I heard from you and then looking at you now, I see it differently because I have a little bit of backstory. So just there were little things where I could feel your nerves start to kick in. And I
Can you
could
see me shaking right now? Can you see it?
I can't
No.
actually.
No.
To be honest, I can't.
So that's my coping mechanism.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, if you put your hand on my shoulder right now,
Yeah.
like, dude, are you okay?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I have a visceral response to
Yeah.
getting in front of the room, for sure.
Well, I mean, you ran to the bathroom, so.
Yeah.
So little things like that to just be more aware of in terms of the way that even your face
So
kind of
my
drops.
hand, because I wasn't conscious of it. My hand went like
so
this.
something
instead
about
of
when
this.
you go like this, where you can see the veins in your arms.
Was it?
And then also, there's something about your face that kind of, well, there's something about your face that kind of drops in that I know that this was a sad story, so you want to match your story with the tone and the way you carry yourself. At the same time, again, knowing your experience, I know that you know the story, and I know that you've owned this story, and that it's something that means a lot to you. And so I would be careful in terms of figuring out that balance between feeling comfortable and authentic, which I know you're super uncomfortable and nervous, but you do a really good job of making us, think that you're totally comfortable. So finding that balance between being comfortable, conversational, and authentic, but still making us feel like it is, I'm nervous to use the word presentation performance, but still projecting in a way that's commanding the room.
Great feedback. So one of the things I think I want to watch the video. I'm a very different presenter when I'm presenting something about legacy. Like if I'm presenting the value, right? I'm going, ta-da, this is what I built, right? But then I'm fully animated, jumping up and down. I want balloons popping
And
off
that
the
would be
ceiling.
fake if you did it anywhere else.
Right. But if I'm going to talk about my grandfather, that's not
Yeah.
the mode I'm going to go into, because it wouldn't be congruent for me.
Right.
But yeah, if you see me talking about, if the conversation is solely about value, oh yeah, I'm like bouncing out of my skin. Good feedback though. I'm curious to see the video as to how
Because I
that
wouldn't
comes
want you to be bouncing up and down or smiling if it wasn't authentic. It's more just the tone in your voice, and still commanding a presence that is powerful but respectful, if that makes sense. And maybe in the video you'll be able to see it.
Yeah, no, I look forward to seeing it. Thank you. Do that again.
You need zero help in presentation. Like zero. You're, to this day, one of the best and most powerful and influential and persuasive speakers I've ever seen. Yes, you're nervous and scared. It's irrelevant. Everyone is. You execute at such a big level, and that's what scares me. So that's where I'm struggling here. And this is where I'm going, where is it that I can help you here? And it's like, and this is the thing that I bought guns for my kids, right? And well, not for my kids, but guns with my kids, and I had guns in my house. The biggest lesson of the gun is how to respect it, what it can do, what happens if you don't have a routine with it, what happens if you don't, what happens if you forget the power of that gun. There's no difference in these skill sets. In fact, this is, in my opinion, way more powerful than a gun. You have mastered and are going to continue to master, and you're a sponge for, that was a good story, holy shit, I love that tie down, and you're constantly gathering those things. Your challenge is so different than anybody else's here, and then I'm going to put you in somewhat of the same, potentially the same place, is what are you going to do with that? So I ask you some tough questions.
Yeah.
Your grandfather, were you there? 2,000 plus people were there because of what? He affected their lives, right? Impacted
He
them.
was Gramps to everybody.
Did you have a relationship with all of them?
In some capacity, yeah.
Okay.
Or you either had a relationship directly with them, or it was a 1 degree of separation where he had some kind of massive impact on their immediate
You're
families.
not going to like what I'm going to say. You want to be like your grandfather. I quoted you 4 times today. Say, you want to build a relationship? Give me a fucking break. Now I know you, and I know relationships are important. Fuck, I know they're important to you. They're everything to you. I also know what you mean by that. I think I know what you mean. You're frustrated at the cliche rhetoric around things that people don't act on. But where you gotta be careful is those words coming out of your mouth with the skill sets that you have and the strength and the power and persuasion and influence that you have could very easily be taken the other way. I challenge you to say, let's take relationships to the next level. I'm sick of talking about it. What does it mean? You showing us the way your grandfather did. Because I guarantee you, like if he affected that many people, there's no way those words would have come out of his mouth. He probably had the patience to deal with people that meant nothing to him and could help him in no way, shape, or form. Probably didn't make the phone calls and probably were lazy, but he still gave them time and empathy. But still went off and built a business. You can do both. They're not mutually exclusive. But the end of all that, I mean it as a compliment and also a warning that you've got a fucking bazooka there. And sometimes you forget that people listen.
That was incredibly valuable. I heard that. Thank you.
Your grandfather's story moves me every time. And I want nothing more as a friend than for you to have that. But I also know as a friend, for you to have that, you've got to reframe some of that shit.
Clearly. For context, yeah, I clearly need to reframe some of my language. And you're correct. The only thing about relationships for me is I'm tired of the rhetoric. I'm tired of the talk.
So how do you do that? Based on our conversation this morning, which was, you said that you struggle with empathy. And what I had said was, the only difference between you and I is I still remember what it was like to not be good at X or what it was like to struggle with this. And that gives me patience and time to help somebody through it and walk their hand. But also gives me, I care enough, that I've reframed that to care enough to say the real way of helping them is to push on Juan hard enough that he has it to start again, because I remember what it was like, and that I also know that if we push a little harder, we'll get there. Versus, I don't have time for this, I'm moving on. Or I don't have the patience, or I don't have the empathy, I don't understand where you're coming from. Place that sometimes you can go to. But I guarantee you the bigger impact you'll have on people are the ones that cannot add value to your business.
The tie down that's popping into my head right now was you asked about, are you afraid of being hurt? The reason you're afraid of being hurt is because when you give, you're expecting something in return. When they don't give it to you, that's what causes the pain. But instead give without the expectation, and therefore just be an observer and choose where to give based on that. Instead of, it would seem